Hello, welcome to another episode of Legends of FPV. My name's Andy Graber here with GetFPV, and today we are joined by none other than Johnny Schaer, also known as JohnnyFPV. You guys may have heard of him before. One of the probably best known FPV pilots in the industry, and he's been killing it recently in the last few years in cinematography and professional video and movies and everything else in between, really leading that industry. So I'm excited to talk to him tonight with you guys. Join along. We're going to bring him in here live, ask some questions, and let's get started. Let me bring you in here, Johnny. What's up, man?
Yo, what's up, Andy? Thank you for
Welcome.
doing this little chat. It's always nice to talk to you guys over in Florida.
Yeah, thanks for taking time, man. I know you're a busy guy. It seems like you're always traveling, doing drone shoots around the world these days.
Trying to. It's becoming more and more competitive. There's people are. I don't know. FPV continues to, I guess, just impress me every day. It gets more and more popular. People have these crazy ideas, and it just continues to grow. So I don't know. It's been an amazing journey, and anyone who's been here and flying for a while knows that. So
Yeah,
love
well,
it.
that's what we're going to explore tonight. I want to hear some of your story, kind of how you got started, what led you to where you are today. Maybe we can give some of your fans and followers some kind of inside information on a little bit on kind of what works for you and what makes you successful to some degree. I think we'd be really interested in hearing that. Um, we have a live chat going right now. Everybody who's joined us, thanks for joining us live here on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So feel free to ask questions along the way. We'll do our best to get to the questions in the chat here as we go. So feel free to ask some questions. Johnny, to start off, I kind of want to go back to the beginning to understand what got you into drones to begin with. Like, what was your entry? What did you even see to spark your interest to get started?
Yeah, so let's see. I think this was an early, I don't know if it was either 2014 or 2015, maybe 2014.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Sharpoo started posting his videos and creating what we know now as like these legendary videos. So I got super lucky. I was randomly just surfing YouTube, came across a Sharpoo video. Still don't remember how. I don't know if I was just searching because drones started to become more popular and I was just curious about anything drone related. But yeah, I remember seeing his video and like the next day or the next week, can't remember exactly, I found Horizon Hobbies website and bought a little Blade Nano QX, I believe, which I assume they're not around, but maybe I'll try and find like a used one to pick up. Probably by today's standards, pretty shit, but at the time they were incredible. And like just a few days after that, bought a slightly more powerful, advanced Horizon Hobby drone, and then eventually found found a hobby store in Miami called 305 Drones. I don't think they're around anymore, unfortunately, but I decided to try and build a proper FPV with my dad, and it took a while to get the damn thing in the air. But I don't know, ever since that first Sharpoo video and that first Blade Nano QX, just went crazy with this stuff, and that led to, I
Did you
suppose,
have any RC history in the past of anything leading up to drones?
I did a bit with airplanes.
Okay.
Never. I was super young when I was doing the airplanes, and I never really got a fantastic grasp with them. But yeah, definitely RC airplanes, and then I had a lot of cars as well. But I don't know if that's a direct correlation. I suppose it is. Yeah, there's a cool photo of me when I'm like 4 or 5 years old in Chicago, freezing my ass off with a little like off road remote control car. So I got to find that picture one of these days. Um, but yeah,
Cool. So you built your first drone. You flew it what, like hovering around? What was that first experience like flying FPV? Do you remember that?
the first FPV drone, I first tried to fly at line of sight. So I tried to
Mhm.
learn. It was when FPV was still not super. It was there, but it was like I don't know. I just for whatever reason went to line of sight first. So
Yeah.
I was practicing line of sight, got good enough where I could fly the drone half decently without FPV, which probably helps to an extent with FPV in general, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, but there's like the first, I have it privated now, but the first video on my YouTube channel is me flying I believe it's a QAV, one of the first QAVs. And I don't remember what was the name of the first
The very
QAV?
first one was QAV 250,
Yeah,
the a mini quad. Yeah.
right, that was the first one I built. And there's a video on my YouTube channel. It's private. Maybe I'll public it for a little while. But I'm line of sighting, and then like I lose the drone. I don't know what's going on, and then it like basically barely misses my head by the
Oh,
quarter
jeez.
inch. And so one of my first experiences was almost a terrible, terrible, brutal death by QAV 250. But yeah. Anyhow, that was good times
I'm glad that didn't turn out worse than, than that.
for
So,
sure.
I mean, were you immediately driven, like, oh, I want to get better at this? Were you discouraged at first? Like, how did you get from there to where you are today in terms of that skill level? I know it takes a lot of practice and hours, but were you like, that's what I want to do?
I don't know, just got addicted to it, right? Like I think the whole video aspect was always super interesting to me from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, always analyzing everyone else's videos who was posting, analyzing everything I was doing. I think a lot of people who create videos, they hopefully do this. I think it's super important. You just overanalyze everything you're doing, and then you kind of just build on that experience slash whatever you learn, and you start to, um, I don't know, progress in your mind, and then you transfer that whatever you learn to the sticks. So that was something that I'm still to this day super into. Whenever I like edit a video, I go over the raw footage, probably a weird amount of time, just watching it through over and over again, and like making very very small tweaks every time. And I think
Mm-hmm.
having that like obsession with that is super important to progress and become better in this space, as with everything in life, I suppose. But so yeah, that's I was kind of always into the video.
Very cool. Very cool. Before we get too far, I wanted to say, everybody, thanks for Johnny joining us tonight. We do actually have a code on the website today. You can go there, add some stuff to your cart, Johnny Motors or Johnny RTF, maybe something like that, anything you want. Put in the code JohnnyFPV on the coupon, and that's going to save you some cash instantly on checkout. So I just want to let everybody know that code's good for this next week. So check that out on GetFPV.com. Thanks again, Johnny, for joining us tonight as we kind of explore a little bit of your history and what's going on there. I look forward to doing that together.
Hell yeah.
I kind of want to shift over to the next part of kind of what was going on for you. So I remember meeting you, I think in person, the first time you came and visited us at GetFPV in our old building down the street. I remember sitting with you and your dad at our kitchen slash conference room at the time because everything was so crammed in there. And I think that we were first talking to you about some sponsorship options and working together with Lumineer. We were wanting to design, I think, your first motor at the time, if I remember right. And that feels like so long ago now. That must have been 2015, 16, probably. Um, and that was really cool to get to design some parts and motors with you and see you progress from where you started to where you are at today. One thing that comes to mind with your flying that I think has stuck out for so many people who followed you for a long time is that terminology of juicy flow, or the way that you fly. Can you talk a little bit about like where that term came from? Where's the first time somebody said juicy? Where did that come from? Was that from like Willard or somebody?
I think so. Anyone who know or has been in the FPV space for a minute, this name will ring a bell. But Zachary Thayer, a noob
Yeah, yeah,
FPV, I still he's convinced that I came up with it, or not came up with it, but started saying it. I still think Zach was the first person I heard like say the juicy term, and I don't remember what context it was,
yeah. Okay.
and I just kind of I ran with it. I thought it was like a cool, funny thing,
Yeah.
and yeah, I somehow became not just like a cool, funny thing word. It just like people started describing my flying style with it. I don't remember if that started with me. I think it did. I think I like started writing in all my descriptions,
So what's
juicy.
it mean to you? Like when you say that, how to describe the flying? Like what does that mean?
Oh, well, it's just like, it's the style that I used to do freestyle in. So it's a very flowy style with like You know, you kind of like initialize movement, and then you hold that movement for a second, and then you transition to another movement. It was
Hmm.
very, flow based. And but whatever, it's like you just gotta like watch the videos, and that's that style like that. And it became its own thing. Now like people, there's a whole like ecosystem of people who focus on this style of flying, which is pretty remarkable. But yes, I think it was Zach, which I still don't know. I don't know if there's any way to verify it, but yeah, so that's where that started.
We'll just
But
believe whatever you say. We'll say that's the truth. So, how did you get? I know you did some FPV racing as well. You're well known for your freestyle and now some of your cinema work, but maybe some people don't know that you were in the racing scene for some time too. Can you tell us about that? What happened there for you?
yeah, well, racing was the, if you ever wanted to try and like progress in the space in 2016, 2017, racing was obviously the go-to.
Yeah.
Like there was no filmmaking with FPV. There was, there was freestyle, but that was super casual in the park with your buddies just for fun. So racing was the only kind of like stepping stone to try and do anything professionally. Obviously, it was super fun, but I remember, I don't, I guess, no. So the first races were in Chicago that I went to. There's a local Chicago drone group. And then one of the first big drone races I ever went to, or big, was like, I believe it was in Florida. I don't remember which one it was. I don't know if it was like a multi GP thing. Anyhow, started progressing in racing. And then eventually there was the World Drone Prix in Dubai, which
Yeah.
is quite a incredible thing that happened that really helped push. I just whatever it became. It helped push drone racing as like a slightly more mainstream term that people recognize. And so I went to Dubai. I lived in Dubai for like 2 months. Super crazy. I just stopped going to university. I went to Dubai, and like yeah, I was there, and that went quite well.
How
And
did
there
that
was like a
even come
free.
up as an opportunity? Did you just go there and then figure it out, or did somebody invite you, or how did that work?
There was a they're not around anymore, but there was a drone like frame company, uh,
I remember.
Chaos.
Yeah. Because it had the
What?
arms that kind of went up, right, a little bit.
Yeah, before that, I think they had another frame as well. I don't. It was this guy Jeremiah who was like
Yeah.
super early in the YouTube space with talking and about FPV drones, and he hit me up and he offered to be my first sponsor with the frame, the Chaos frame. And then eventually he got connected to some guys in Dubai, a couple drone people in Dubai, and it was all like attached to this big race. So I went there first to kind of like meet with these guys, hang out with them, see what opportunities might arise from that, and then naturally fell into the race as well. And yeah, that was freaking crazy. Did well. There was a freestyle. I think I was third in the freestyle, which was super cool. In the racing, I had like a pretty solid qualifying time, and then I crashed early in the race. But yeah, good times,
Yeah,
crazy.
I remember watching your freestyle because they had videos or somebody was broadcasting it to some degree. Wasn't somebody doing freestyle line of sight at that event? Do I remember that right?
Yeah, Min
Is it Min Chen?
Yeah, that was slightly controversial
Yeah,
because, but he like deserved to win that for sure. Um, but yeah, he obviously came from 3D helis,
right.
and so he somehow was able to do similar movements without a inverted or reverse thrust, which is
Right.
pretty incredible. And he just amazed everyone and like was flying that thing around like a, I don't know, bat out of hell, and it was super cool. And obviously he's now like the best racer. I think he's still like the best racer. I don't even know. I haven't been
He's
paying
definitely in the
attention that close.
top. I mean, I think if he's ever had a race, he has a shot at winning it for sure.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
he's really
He's a great
talented.
guy.
Yeah, I forgot that that was him at that event. Okay, that's before he really got into racing. Yeah, very cool.
For sure.
Little history. Yeah, Dubai. That was quite the event. I mean, at that point, it was like drone racing was gonna be the sky's the limit, and nobody knew where it was going. All of a sudden, you have a country like Dubai putting on an event with tons of prize money that had never been seen before, and flying pilots out. I remember our owner Tim Nielsen at the time. He flew out there. Was at the event. That
Yep.
was pretty cool. So then you also did you race a season with DRL early in the early days of that? Is that right?
Yeah, there was the first season of DRL. I think that was 2017.
Okay.
It might have been 16 actually. Quite a while ago. And I did really well. I won the first race that I went to. It was a pretty epic few races with Jordan, Temkin, and Zach, and then did well in a few races after that. And then there's a championship, which was quite interesting. I ended up getting third in that. Probably should have won, but I ended up crashing into a bunch of other guys in a few races. So that was cool. And then I did the season after that, obviously. Did not too well, if I remember correctly. And that was, I think I did a bit of racing after that, but that was kind of as I started to transition out of racing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also like this whole thing where I was traveling in like Asia. Like I won this big race in South Korea, which is super cool. Um, and then what else did I do in racing? There's all DCL in Europe with X Blades,
Oh, that's
super
right.
cool. I made like some of my best freestyle videos on that trip in Ireland, Isle of Man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so
For racing, for you, are you feel like you're a competitive person? Like, does that drive you from that standpoint? Was it fun, or did you just do it because it was a unique opportunity? Would you describe racing for you?
yeah, I mean, definitely have a competitive attitude. I've always played, or when I was younger, I always played sports. Excuse me, I always played sports, so that lended a little bit in the competitive nature, and Uh, yeah, but I'm more of like a quite chill and relaxed, laid back. So perhaps to get to the top of the racing game, you really need some fire in you. So maybe some of the other guys have a bit more competitive nature, but
Yeah. Well, I think you probably people would argue you're at the top of your game now, so you must have some fire somewhere. Maybe just not into racing anymore. But
for sure.
have you done any kind of racing any time recently, or has it been a long time now?
Now it's been a minute. I don't
How do you
like.
think you'd
I'd love
do? Let's say you walk to a track tomorrow. What would happen?
I would do well for sure, but nowhere near the top guys. Like,
Yeah.
if the top guys were there, they'd obviously kick my ass. But if it was casual guys or guys who race but are maybe not super dedicated to it, I'd probably win for sure.
What if they had to race with an X8 on 8-inch props carrying a Komodo?
I would definitely win. Well, probably. I know like some people are racing heavier drones, and like,
True.
is X class still a thing
Yeah, it's
and
still a
all
thing
that?
for there's a group of people doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. But yeah, with the heavy gear, I am quite experienced with that stuff. So
Did that feel like it was a lot of work transitioning from the smaller 5-inch type freestyle quad into a bigger, heavier rig? Or did a lot of that translate over that skill set that you had learned?
um, I think it just came with experience and like flying FPV like all the time. And
Mm,
then the heavier thing, now it's quite funny. Now it's what I'm used to, right?
right.
So now it feels weird to go back to the lighter stuff. It doesn't feel as like natural.
Hmm.
So I think it's kind of just what you're used to. And then but it's you have to, I guess, just pay attention more to like the physics, right? So a 5-inch drone, it's like it's great, like you could stop on literally half an inch and turn the other
Right.
direction. With the bigger stuff, you gotta like anticipate a bit more and give yourself a bit more room for error. But once you are super comfortable in it, you can pretty much do everything just with a bit less, I don't know, a bit less. I'm trying to think of the word, but you're just a bit less hyper. So
Yeah.
everything is basically the same. You can freaking freestyle. I should do that. I should freestyle the Komodo rig,
Yeah.
but so you just got to anticipate more. But it's all about experience around what you're flying. And
Sure. Well, I want to definitely dive in a little deeper into some of your work you're doing now and some other stuff that's come out recently. We see there's like an Emmy in the back wall, which I want to talk about in a little bit. But before we get there, I wanted to show some people some products that we had worked on in the past and some that are actually current today and just get your thoughts on it. Let me turn on my overhead camera here and then see what you think. Let's Let's see, move these over. All right.
Oh,
First
I
one I'm going to
recognize.
show. So I'm going to show is this one. I don't know if you recognize this motor.
Of course.
So this was the Johnny FPV, the V2 actually. I didn't have a V1 anymore. It probably is somewhere. We have a few laying around still from early prototypes. But this was
For
the
sure.
version 2. We did this in 3 different KVs. And this was kind of the go-to motor for the 5-inch freestyle type frames. This is, I think, the, what is it, 1750 KV
Yeah.
we'd use on 6S usually. When you were flying the 5-inch more regularly, were you flying 4S or 6S, or what is your setup there for that?
I took the strange route of going 5S.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know why. Maybe it was because at the time 6L was still slightly unreliable, and I, for whatever reason, went 5 cell, and I was using the 2400 kV motors forever on 5 cell, and it was a little overpowered, but
Yeah, that would be fast. Jeez.
it was great. You could do whatever. It's like you're a little. It's great. It was great.
Honestly, I
Um,
think 5 cell is underrated. A lot of people just don't think about it because there's less choice just because most stuff isn't built for 5 cell. But
yeah,
if you get a nice setup for it, it has a good spot, I think, kind of in between the two. And like you said, you can take those motors and push them a little bit harder that were maybe a 4 cell KV, and it might surprise you for someone
for
who's
sure.
maybe if you got an old rig and you're kind of bored of it and it's not for 4S and your ESCs can support it, put a 5S battery and see what happens.
Oh, let's go. I still think one of the coolest, the motor that unfortunately never became a reality, the V1, we had a plan to try and do black windings, and it,
Yeah,
it turned
I
out
should. I think I have a sample somewhere still. Yeah,
I would love if you could send me that. So we originally, I think it was because the windings would get too hot or something, right?
yeah.
But
So the copper, then they're coated in an enamel, and to be able to get that colored coating, I guess something was going on to where that coating wasn't performing the same as a clear coating was when it had the
right,
color in it. So yeah, the windings would heat, and then eventually the enamel would burn, which would fry the motor. It didn't happen all the time, but it was enough to where it's like we can't sell this motor if it fails like
for
that. But
sure.
it looked awesome. It was yeah, we had black
Yeah,
motor, black windings. We even had the shaft black. It was like all black. It was really cool.
yeah, I was super obsessed with the whole stealth look, like stealth fighter jet vibe. But the black one with the bronze winding was almost as cool. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is still a nice motor. Then I have a the next version after that one that's a current motor today, and this is like a dual color motor. This is actually one of my favorite, really nice motor. This is also a Johnny FPV motor. This is a different size, 2306. The other one was 2207, and we have this one in 3 different KVs. But cool looking
yeah,
motor, man. And
the
they're so
cool,
smooth too.
the
Very
coolest. Nothing
that coolest.
compares.
So, like as an example, if people want to see, this is actually that motor on. Let me zoom out here on the Johnny FPV frame. So this is one of the ready to flies that we offer essentially in the Johnny setup. So it has the Johnny motor, the Johnny frame on a DJI setup, and then a ESC and flight controller stack in there. Really clean build. One of my favorite for sure. And it flies just so good for a 5-inch freestyle. Put a GoPro on top, whatever kind of camera you want in the front, and very solid, very clean looking. Everything kind of was purpose designed for these parts, and the antennas look real good just sitting in the back. This is like a molded rubber part that is designed to hold the air unit in place and also provide a holder for the antenna. So there's some cool features built in this frame. The aluminum guard in the front that protects the camera. These are in stock right now at GetFPV if anybody is interested and ready to fly pre-built. So we have these in stock with the Johnny motors. But it's been cool doing so many products with you over the years, Johnny. It's been exciting, kind of explore, push the boundaries. Like you said, that black motor, it didn't make the light of day for the public, but it was like I remember designing it, and being really excited about it, and trying to get it to work, and it just didn't end up making sense. But that was a fun project. Last one I have in terms of a product, these props. Tell me a little bit about this prop and what made this prop special, or a Johnny prop.
It still has. I don't know if there's another propeller that feels quite the same way. It's quite like a gushy, um, I don't know, it's super flowy kind of feel. So whatever Azure did to achieve that, I loved it, and it was super unique.
Exactly.
So
Juicy
something different.
approved.
Juicy approved, yes, sir. Yeah, whenever I guess with anything, it's always beneficial to try and do something a little different. So
Yeah.
again, thankfully they were able to create like a unique flying feel, and that was yeah, it's a great propeller for 5 inch.
Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing some of those thoughts. Guys, check those out. A lot of those products are on GetFPV. If anybody's interested in picking one up, they are available. John, I want to get to some of these comments. I've been seeing people chat through up here. I, I know you said you got started, watching a video online. I've seen a few people comment in here saying the same thing. I got started because I saw a Johnny video online, which is kind of cool to think that you have been able to influence the similar way of how you got started within the hobby, that somebody online had a video that inspired you to start. And what does that feel like to you that, people are seeing your videos and that's how they got into FPV?
No, it's really amazing. Like FPV has changed my life. So if someone is able to catch that wave of inspiration within themselves and get into it for fun, for hobby, for professional reasons, that's pretty incredible. And it just goes to show like the immense power of social networking and the internet and video and sharing. So I don't know, it's all tied in together, and it's yeah, no, I'm just thankful for that people kind of started, posting Sharpoo. He was very passionate about his videos, and that rubbed off. That rubbed off on me, and that was my first whatever we chatted about that. But it's other guys as well as taking inspiration from other filmmaking kind of styles as well. So not non FPV, and trying to apply some of those same, I don't know, just visuals to FPV. And so I don't know, man. It's pretty incredible what like social media has done, not only for my career, but people who are also into FPV. So
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. Someone was asking. This reminds me of, this is an old thing, but they were asking about the soft mounting. I remember back in the
oh,
days, the soft mounting the motors. That's come up probably a few times. Tell people maybe who don't know what that was even about.
yeah, I guess now flight controllers are so good at filtering noise that this
Yeah,
is no longer relevant. But in like 2016, probably, maybe even a bit earlier,
yeah.
the people were trying to figure out how to like dampen motor vibrations. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I think I was with Jordan and Zach when we did this. We put just electrical tape between the motor base and the carbon arm, and it, at least to me, people, it's still controversial if it ever like did anything,
Yeah.
but to me it felt like it really improved the, like, very finely improved. So it wasn't like a
Okay.
drastic difference, but it was just enough to make the freestyle drone I was flying feel that much better, and like really got me in my zone. And it
Yeah.
just became this hilarious thing. And then after that, people started printing 3D printed versions,
Yeah.
but
TPU.
I always swore by the tape, and so I no longer tape my motors. But I would love to do it again and like see if it, probably now, again, the flight controllers are so much better that it doesn't matter. But yeah, there's a comment. People thought I was trolling. It really wasn't trolling. It happened to be such a ridiculous and stupid thing that yeah, that it appeared to be trolling.
I
But
remember seeing a video where someone was trying to like test it scientifically, and they were showing like black box logs, and you could see a difference. It's still arguable. Like, doesn't matter which frame, what's the resonance, all the other stuff that would affect it. But I remember, I mean, to your point, I think there's no doubt that it changed something. So it wasn't like it was nothing. And in your case, it actually helped with your setup. It sounds like. I think maybe I would attribute it to something similar to like a notch filter almost, where you're changing that harmonic frequency of whatever the motor vibrates or the propeller, and maybe by shifting that one way or the other by damping, that was actually an effective way to kind of like get past a noise that was causing a blip in the controller, like you're saying. But yeah, the software and flight controllers now, the notch filtering, the other advanced filters that you can do if needed, has come a long way from back in the early days when we were flying. It was very, very much like, it was like hard mounted almost feeling, and if you breathed on it wrong, it would flutter or something like that.
Yeah, I almost wish it was still a little difficult to get into FPV because I think whenever you're like faced with some sort of difficult challenge in anything, like you got to put in that much more work, and so you kind of appreciate everything that much more. But it is quite nice that people who want to get into it, they don't have to deal with that. So it opened the door, but I also think it kind of I don't know, at least for me, it was quite important. I think like if I could just
Mm-hmm.
pick up a drone and for the first time and fly it somewhat decent, maybe you would be a little bit less likely to really like pursue a deep venture into it. Maybe not. I don't know.
I think there's truth in it. I mean, I think that probably applies to a lot of things in life, right? Once
Of course.
you work hard for something and you appreciate it more, and maybe you learn something more along the way. So those of us who got started in FPV in kind of those early days, we remember some of the challenges that we had to go through just to even fly, not even fly well necessarily. Johnny, I wanted to shift a little bit. I have a few videos queued up that many
Cool.
people will probably recognize from that you've posted or that you've been a part of. I wanted to get your thoughts a little bit about shooting this video. You know, what was happening, what it took to shoot that. Because I'm going to start with one that I think maybe kind of landed you on the map to some degree outside of the FPV world. Because you were in FPV for a long time. You were a well-known FPV pilot within the community. You had incredible freestyle skills. But I think this video I'm about to show kind of went outside the FPV community, and all of a sudden people said, "Oh, you can do that with a FPV drone." I had no idea. So let me bring this up,
Uh-oh.
and then
Which
let's get
one?
your
Which one?
thoughts. Let's get your thoughts. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So this is the one that has the most views on your YouTube account today. Tell me a little bit about like what is this video and what was it like to shoot it?
Yeah, well, this is obviously a compilation, kind of a big montage of all the stuff that I had accumulated over the last 2 years. But it has like a few super key moments, like that opening shot that was on a pretty crazy and quite a random trip to Saudi Arabia, of all places. And that was my first big viral video on Instagram, and
Okay.
that really put my stuff in front of people who had not been exposed to FPV. And then there's like the rhino shot in there.
Another
That was
commercial. Yeah.
another huge viral piece that quite controversial, but the whole trip was in good faith and for a good reason. So whatever. But yeah. So and then this guy. Oh yeah. Here's some of the drifting stuff and Formula Drift. That was kind of key to my development with filming cars, which is now what I would say is my kind of most my what I'm best at, or what I'm most known for, or what people, at least that's what I associate my best work with, car filming.
Yeah, I think you're certainly well known for that because you've had so many good videos with car chasing. You seem to have a real knack for like being able to chase a car, get really close, but keep them in a nice shot that's framed well the whole time, which is challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah, chasing the car is one thing, but like framing it on a fixed camera at the same time can I can imagine it's hard.
for sure. Yeah, there's a comment. 0.23 frames per second. Yeah, it's a bit laggy. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, I'm streaming a stream of a stream basically here, so just bear with us if it's
Inception.
a little slow.
Oh yeah, they're
Um,
Venice, Italy, flying totally legally in the middle of Venice. I promise.
nice.
Good times.
These are back in the early days of FPV, where maybe it was a little more of a wild
Oh
west.
yeah, this right here, this was I think my first professional shoot that I was ever paid for, and it was a DJI commercial, which is quite hilarious. And yeah, now we got some freestyle. Love it.
Oh, that was when you were down in the tropics shooting on the by the water. Was that then the DR or something, or what was it?
Yeah, yeah, Dominican Republic, when I met now my good friend Sam Calder and a bunch of other people who were on that shoot.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Very cool. All right, I got another one here that you'll probably recognize. That I wanted to bring up another older one. This is some shots I think that were already in the other one, but this was that drift video that you said that people probably know you for with chasing cars.
Yeah, first ever drift video with GoPro for their Hero 7, which was a pretty great camera.
Okay.
And some clips from a European drifting thing as well in here, but mainly from the GoPro event in, I think it was in, I don't remember where, just outside of Illinois, I believe. I don't remember where, but back in Europe here. Yeah, man, the drifting really changed the game for me. That had a couple of really viral drifting videos, and that kind of set the stage to jump into like the production world with car commercials. So super key to what FPV is now for me, which is cool.
So with drifting like this, I mean, there's times where you're like in a cloud of smoke. How do you fly through that? I mean, are you blind, or you just kind of feel your way through it based on your trajectory? How does that work?
When you're in a big cloud of smoke, well, you got to remember like what kind of momentum and direction the car has, so
Yeah.
that it's not going to like suddenly stop. But no, I mean, like usually if you're in a cloud, it's for a split second, and then you got to adjust or whatever. But so intuitive,
You have any stories of some wrecks related to flying with cars, anything like that?
Some big crashes. A couple, nothing too crazy, but I had a crash with like the Komodo on the first movie I did, Red Notice. There was a big mine shaft chase scene, and they put the car on this like flip mechanism. They basically shot um, pressurized air under the car so it would flip and do all this crazy stuff. And so I just thought it would be cool to sit right behind the car as it kind of like, yeah, as they hit the button to eject the thing into the stratosphere. And so there was a lot of debris and my propellers got hit, but it was great and people loved it because like everyone in film likes when you get really crazy and you try and get the shot even if something happens. So that was cool. That was super cool.
Very, very cool. Speaking of Red Notice here, I got the clip queued up as well because this was really probably the first feature film, at least that I can remember, that was featuring like an FPV style drone in a lot of shots. Like you'd see a clip here and there, maybe every now and then in a movie or a commercial. But is that true? Is this one of the first movies that's really integrated it as much as they did? Would that be a true
Yeah,
statement?
this I could be mistaken, but I think this is the first, at least, like big movie that ever used FPV. And the director Rawson Thurber, he was incredible. He just was looking for things that were different and unique. And the DP Marcus Fordera on that movie, he initially saw the FPV and saw that it was something super fresh and different. And then these guys, when they see something that has a potential to be unique or add to their film, they go for it, right? And they contacted me. I met with them in their office in Hollywood, and next thing I knew, I was on set with 200 other people working on the movie, flying the FPV around, and did a session in Rome, which is the opening shot. There was a big section in Atlanta, which is on the screen right now. So they built this entire set in Atlanta during COVID. So
Wow.
they had to get like crazy permissions from Netflix and insurance and everything. And that's me chasing Ryan Reynolds. Of course, his stunt double was doing most of the stuff here, except for the close-ups. But yeah, super well integrated, and it feels well done. Like the editor, he didn't he used it well, and it was integrated well with good movement. So yeah, really amazing experience though.
Yeah, that's so cool to see that. Is this that tunnel scene you're talking about with the car?
Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they used the shot where I get taken out by the car, but that was the same.
Oh,
So
bummer.
yeah, same thing.
So all this, you shot all this on a Komodo, a red Komodo. Is that what all those shots were from?
Yeah, the Red Komodo totally changed the game for FPV. There's some other like cameras which are quite good. Like when I started doing professional work, I used the GH5S for probably almost a year, maybe even longer. But the Red
Hmm.
Komodo, people in the industry, they know Red is it's the highest or one of the highest standards of cameras, right?
Yeah.
So that was like a game changer, and productions really want to use it and are excited by it. Um, and thankfully now the drone tech is good enough where we could fly the Komodo and do it quite well.
I have a few others on the show, but before we go to that, I kind of wanted to dive in a little bit to some of behind the scenes of when you're on set on a movie like Red Notice. Can you explain for those who haven't had that opportunity from a drone pilot's perspective, what does that look like? Like, are you on set 150 days? They call you in a specific time, and when they do, is it like very stressful? They're like, you have 10 minutes and you get the shot, and then you're out, or give us a little idea of what it's like.
It really varies. Like on some commercials, there's so many different components. So you're on a set with 100 other people, and there's five other cameras, and there's just one shot, allocated for the FPV. So sometimes you're super busy. Other times you're sitting waiting for 8 hours for the right moment. On Red Notice, they scheduled it around. The FPV days. So for some films, they'll like hire you for extended weeks on end, and you might not get that much action. Red Notice, they scheduled my days around the FPV, so I was quite busy during that one. And but yeah, it's definitely stressful to an extent. I think it's super, super valuable and important to be able to deal with the stress on these film sets. If you can't handle the stress, you can't perform at the highest level, and you can't deliver what they hired you to do as well. Um, so I think I don't know, it's just through experience, but it's super important to learn how to control your nerves and stay calm under pressure. So that's something
Yeah.
I've
Do
luckily.
you feel like some of your experience through FPV racing in the past help kind of prepare you for that to some degree in terms of nerves and pressure?
Maybe, perhaps, I don't really know. I just do it after you do it long enough. Obviously, you can deal with it. So I think it's a combination of just doing enough stuff where you reach the point where you're in your zone, and it's what you do. It's not something too foreign. Um, but yeah, just through experience for sure.
How about this question? What's the craziest shot someone's asked you to do? I'm assuming there must be some shots where people just assume you can do it, but it's impossible. Or has that not happened to you?
No, with FPV, it's like it's an amazing tool for what it can do, but it can't do so many things. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of you need to make sure the people you're working with know its strengths and weaknesses, so they could build their productions around that. But what was the first part of the question?
I was
Miss.
asking like who's have they what's the craziest thing that you've
Oh,
been asked to
yeah,
do
crazy.
with the drone? Yeah.
I probably the most difficult thing was flying through the window in my Porsche film.
Okay.
It's like naturally such a hard thing, especially in a relatively high speed drift. So you gotta like, I was kind of banking the drone to keep the path of the car. So my drone, the propellers were kind of like up here and here, and the window is super small in the Taycan.
Yeah, I got
Um,
it queued up here.
yeah, so there's a lot of crashing that went into this shot, but eventually we got it. And I was actually, this is quite funny. I was so uh, surprised that I made it through both windows that by instinct, I accidentally turned off the drone after I made it through the second window.
Like you disarmed?
I disarmed by
Oh
accident.
wow.
So that's why we had to cut to the other shot in the desert, because the drone, it just fell into the snowbank. It's quite funny.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, you would never know because they cut it out early. But you had crashed so many times before that it was just instinctive. You're like, oh, I got to disarm.
Exactly. It's probably 8 to 15. I don't remember exactly how many
Oh my
crashes
god!
prior.
And it was freezing too, right? I mean, were your like hands numb, or where were you flying from?
Yeah, it's right. It was the North Pole basically. So I was pretty lucky where the production had like heaters for my hands, and but
Okay.
it was still pretty brutal for sure.
Which location was harder for you as a pilot, the cold or the hot?
Definitely the cold. I mean, working in the
Okay.
cold is pretty heavy. And it was March, so in the Middle East, obviously in the summer, it's absolutely brutal. But in March, not too bad. So in the middle of the day, we weren't filming. Obviously, the light is super shit in the middle of the day, but it was also just way too hot. So we just filmed in the
Mhm.
morning for like 4 hours, and then closer to sunset, we went back to set and picked up where we left off. So
Very cool. Um, Behind you, and you made a post recently about the Emmy, which I believe you're probably the first drone operator to receive an Emmy. Is it? I don't know of any others, I guess. But
definitely
that
the
was,
first, definitely the first FPV. I can't speak to big drones.
yeah.
I have no idea,
So
but
how did that happen? What happened that got you an Emmy?
yeah, I mean, this was for the Red Bull one shot motocross project I did. And it was before like the whole one shot thing became super popular. I think this video might have pushed people in that direction, or I don't know. I could be wrong with my timeline here, but yeah, we did a 5 minute one take chasing Tyler Berman, incredible freestyle motocross rider, and it's a 5 minute one take at this like crazy track. And I think that was one of the first times I used the DJI gear, which was pretty funny that we were able to pull this off with like some new gear, but it made it possible for sure. With analog, I'm not sure it would have been possible. And
So, because I've seen this
yeah,
video, I'm showing it here in the background. So it's a one shot. It's like over 5 minutes long. You're
yeah.
carrying a Komodo as well on this one.
No, with this one, we used the DJI action camera.
Okay.
A sponsored shoot
But
through
still, so you
DJI.
shot this. It was over 5 minutes of pretty aggressive flying. Was your
Yeah.
battery like dead when you got? Like it must have been almost ready to fall out of the sky.
You say that one more time. Sorry.
So your battery must have been very dead by the end. Did it like
Oh, for
almost
sure,
fall
for
out of
sure.
the sky?
It was probably another 30 seconds of flight time, but
Oh, geez.
yeah, super cool. I mean, I'm super happy that this was recognized as something really obviously won an Emmy, which is incredible. Um, yeah,
Is it like
great.
a specific category, or what was the Emmy
It
granted
was for
for?
camera work. So there's different categories for the Emmys. There's a longer form and then shorter form. So obviously this is a short form film. So this one, best short form cameraman work. So people liked how I operated the drone and the camera here, which is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, the video is pretty amazing. I mean, even within the first minute or two, you're like, wow, and then it just keeps going.
It just
And
keeps going.
the stakes, did they feel like they got higher? Like you're getting close to the end, and it's a one take, so you don't want to blow it at the end. Like, what did that feel like?
For sure. Yeah, I think this was one of the last takes we did. There was a few others prior that were pretty good. I do think this turned out to be the best take. Obviously, they used it, but the light was also pretty stellar. So I was like, in 2 minutes after this finished, the light is behind this huge hill here.
Right.
So that all worked out super nicely, which is kind of funny. Um, yeah. If you haven't seen this video, definitely go watch it with full res and 4K. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, guys, check that out. This is on which channel is this on? Red Bull's channel, I think.
It's on Red Bull
Yeah,
Motorsports. Yeah,
Red Bull Motorsports. Yeah, you can guys see that video if you guys want to watch it and with the audio and everything. Um,
and then
one
we
other
we
one.
actually did a follow up. We did a second one, which is um, it's super cool as well. But the coolest part is we used the red Komodo. So
Is
this
it
was
this
the
one here?
first
The single take
project.
one? Yeah.
Yeah, this one here. This was one of the first projects that I had used the red Komodo on, and to do like a one shot like this 2 years ago now, or a year and a half, whatever it is, pretty amazing in my opinion. And that was like a
Mhm.
great proof of concept to use the cinema cameras on
And the camera had
FPV.
just come out at that point, right? It was like brand new.
It was a prototype, so we were using a prototype here
Oh wow!
before it was officially released. So
Did you crash?
red.
Did you crash the prototype?
Yeah, actually, we did. I got hit by a chunk of rock or a chunk of
Oh
something
man!
heavy, and it took me out. Which was the camera was fine. That thing is a beast. And of course, we landed in the desert, so it was quite
I
forgiving.
know. I
But
see pictures sometimes of people that have crashed it, and they're like, the camera survived, and I'm like, no way. How did that? How did that survive? Hard to believe. Hard to
yeah.
believe that it survives those kind of crashes. Um, so this is another one take follow up. Is this in the same area? It looks like a similar type of desert.
Where was this one? I think this was a bit north out of Los Angeles, so probably 2 or 3 hours outside of the city. And then the motocross was closer to San Diego, so south of LA.
Very cool.
Yeah.
One thing
There's a
I
lot of people asking. Wait. There's a lot of
okay.
people asking about Flight One. I haven't flown Flight One in like probably over a year. I can't, unfortunately, cannot reach those guys, but I'm no longer flying Flight One for everyone who's asking. I've used Betaflight for quite a while now, and one of my Freestyle 5-inch drones. I actually still have a Kiss, which I haven't flown Freestyle in quite a while, unfortunately. But when I do go out, it's I got a Betaflight and a Kiss. So.
There you go. Settled. So yeah, I see Stefano. I think was asking about your tune. Um, with your beta flight and stuff today and on your cinema rigs, what's that look like for you in terms of tuning? Do you spend a lot of time kind of trying to dial it in from a tune perspective, or where do you spend most of your time on a setup rig when you're getting it built and ready to fly?
Yeah, I mean the tune, it wasn't that difficult. I mean, let's see, it probably took this guy Sam helped me tune it, and we were able to get it pretty damn good in just like a few days. So once you have like your filters kind of working with you, where they're filtering what needs to
Mm-hmm.
be filtered, but it's still raw enough where you could feel the drone, you just increase the PIDs until it feels locked in, and it was
You guys
set.
do black box logging to kind of analyze it, or do you just do it more by feel and tweak and feel and tweak?
We did a bit of black box, so I don't remember how important it was because eventually we got the drone good enough where there wasn't some crazy spike we had to tune out through filtering.
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, black box is important if you want to get your thing to the highest level. So.
Right. Have you yourself personally dove into that side of it, or you kind of let some other people help you if you need it?
I usually reach out for help. For whatever reason, now I'm purely into not 100%, but I'm much more into the flying and the
Mm-hmm.
operating and dealing or messing with camera stuff. Um, so there's other people who are better tuners than me. So if I ever need a new drone tuned, I'll usually try and find somebody who's down to help out. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, once you start getting real specialized and at a high level, then you focus on what you enjoy and what you're good at instead of trying to do
for
everything.
sure.
Yeah. One of your recent videos that I thought stood out to me for multiple reasons, but one of the ones that I think a lot of people appreciate your work is the sound editing as well, which I think delivers a different level of an FPV video. We're so used to, you hear the hum of a drone motor, which necessarily doesn't work well in a lot of situations. So then if you want audio in these clips, that means you're doing some kind of sound engineering, either recording audio at a different time or at a different location during the shoot. I'd like you to kind of talk through this clip. This is let me bring it up, the motorcycle one.
Oh
And
yeah.
we have it muted right now. So if you guys want to watch it, check out Johnny's channel on YouTube. He has the video there. But as you're flying here, like you can hear the motorcycle screaming, and it transitions real nicely. The audio I thought was one of the cooler parts of this video.
Yeah, so there's a quite a I would say a classic cinematic car video on YouTube called "The Last Viper." It was a film commissioned and done by Pennzoil for oil or whatever, but they it's this incredible film, and they basically uh, that helped me realize how important like sound design was. And so I researched who made this video actually, and it was turned out to be these guys called Source Sound LA. So I reached out to these guys and asked if they'd be interested to help me do sound design on my MotoGP video, and they literally do some of the best sound design work in the world. So it was definitely not cheap, but um, having like a full product with these videos, so having a full end to end where everything is spot on is super important. So it's not only about the visuals, it's about the color, it's about the sound. Um, you got to hit all the senses, right? So sound is obviously such a important part of any film, and
Yeah.
so yeah, if I mean learning sound design, I could do a bit. I'm nowhere near these guys, for example, who did the sound design in this video. But yes, sound design is
What's that process look like? I agree with you totally. What's that process look like for you? So you've shot the footage. Do you make the full edit and then you're handing it off to help with the sound design, or is it the other way around?
yeah. So in this case, I filmed the video. Obviously, I also did the edit, and so I cut the video, and then once it was pretty much finalized, we sent it off to the sound company, and they worked their magic on it, and they were able to create this incredibly energizing piece.
Did they kind of knock it out of the park the first time, or did you have to give a lot of feedback and go back and forth? What was that like?
With these guys, they pretty much knocked it out of the park first try. Of course, there were some small tweaks that needed to happen, but they again, these people were like they do like all the crazy. I don't know. They do the sickest work basically in the world, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'll trust you on that one. Um, I want to know a little bit more about your editing process because you put a lot of time and effort, and I think you've done that for a long time, many years now with your videos. Like you said, you go over your shots like over and over and over, analyzing them, and I think what sets you apart in a lot of your videos is also your transitions between shots. Can you speak a little bit about that and how you edit and how that kind of flows in your head to make a transition? Are you flying? One question that I've always thought about: when you're flying, are you thinking, I'm going to use this into a transition into another shot potentially? So you do a roll into another roll. Does that ever happen?
For sure. I guess one film, obviously, transitions are just quite visually very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So they became very popular in the last few years. And now people are like, there's like, whatever, whenever you could do them super well, it's incredible, but you don't want to overdo them.
Right.
Anyhow, so this film recently, this commercial I did with the NFL, they wanted to do a seamless or as close to seamless piece as possible. So some of the shots were like that was their idea from the start. So thankfully we could kind of like pre-plan a few shots to match up the movement, which was super important. Um, but a lot of the time you go through all of your footage and you could find things that line up because you could only move the drone in so many ways. So you're gonna find footage that kind of matches each other. Um, but yeah, it requires a lot of masking. Sometimes it's just a basic cross dissolve. Um,
What do you
and
use software wise when you're doing editing?
I just use Final Cut Pro. It's quite a friendly software. Like it's quite easy to learn, but it's very powerful at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people also use like Adobe products. I've always found they're a bit more difficult to learn. I'm sure they have perhaps a bit more flexibility, and if you
Mm-hmm.
want to do some crazy things. But Final Cut works great for me, so I've always used it, and I plan on continuing to use it.
Very cool. Um, I have one other clip on to share to show. Let me pull it.
Couple guys talking trash in the chat. I love it.
He's giving you a hard time. I guess you made it when you got maybe a hater or two. That's great.
For sure, guys. Tune in rates don't really matter. FYI.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Talk about this one.
Yeah. So this is the film. This is the NFL film. That this was awesome. Vegas Strip. Like I don't think anybody has ever flown a drone like this in Vegas. So these are all like super iconic locations in Vegas. Obviously, the stadium for the Allegiant Stadium, and yeah, I was flying in Vegas. Like it reminded me of The Hangover and how epic and hilarious that movie is. So it was fun to fly Caesar's Palace and all that.
I bet. How did this even come to be a thing? Like someone reached out to you and found you, or what happened?
Yeah, I'm definitely in a lucky position, but the NFL just sent me an email out of the blue and proposed this idea, and we were able to execute on it. So hopefully, there's some more stuff with the NFL, but this was a super good start for sure.
Yeah, I remember I saw this on TV. I think on one of the commercials live, and I was like, "Oh, that's all FPV drone. I wonder if Johnny shot it." And then I saw
Yeah,
that he posted. I was like, "Yep, that was Johnny." That was pretty
yeah,
cool. And they added like all the overlay of the video screens as you're flying, which
yeah.
was
I
really
actually I
cool to
did the
do it.
whole edit actually, so I uh, I had help with adding the overlays, but I edited that whole video, which was quite cool.
I think you told me too. Like in some cases, you may be very directed or scripted on what they want you to do or fly. And this one wasn't it a little bit more open? It was just like do your thing. Was that is that how it was, or what was it like?
Well, we had like they had all the locations in mind and the general concept, and then once I get to each location, it's kind of up to my creative interpretation. And the NFL team was there as well, so we were going through different shot options at each location, and doing different kind of takes, and then just building everything together in post. So yeah.
Cool. Someone was asking what camera we're using in that NFL shot. I assume was that a Komodo as well.
Yeah. I'm using the Komodo pretty much exclusively now, so everything you see me shoot is probably on Komodo.
Cool. So you've you've posted some stuff recently. A lot of this stuff, we don't see it publicly until much later, especially in movies, right? Like you're doing all your work, which is really exciting, but then you can't talk about it really for a year or two. What's that like as a pilot? I'm sure you want to share your work, but it must be hard to sometimes keep it under wraps.
Yeah, no, becomes part of the game. So movies obviously take like a full year to edit and market. So I've done a few super amazing movies since Red Notice, and they'll hopefully come out this year or next year. I don't know, but part of the game. You got to be patient. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, now you got, like you said, you have some in the pipeline already, working on, or you worked on them, and we'll see them going or coming here soon. So that will be cool once we can start talking about that. I wanted to remind everybody real quick. Thanks for Johnny joining us. We have a code on GetFPV, a discount code in your cart. If you add JohnnyFPV as the coupon code, you'll save some money. So go add some stuff in the cart on GetFPV.com. We have Johnny Motors, the Johnny RTF, which is very popular. This is actually Johnny, our most popular ready to fly combo right here is the Freestyle 5-inch drone with the DJI HD system. It's an awesome system.
Amazing. Yeah.
I've caught it myself too. So you guys check that out. You can save cash. This is good for about the next week or so on GetFPV site. So Johnny, what's going on now and in the future? I know there's a lot of stuff that you're saying you can't talk about, but maybe give us a taste of something or what you're putting your time and focus and energy into.
What's coming out? What can I talk about? Let's see.
How
Honestly,
about this? Some people might know, where are you right now today, like physically?
no, physically, I live in Venice, Los Angeles, or
Okay.
Venice Beach area.
Yeah, in
So
California.
yeah, unfortunately, there's like nowhere to fly. So a lot of the flying I do is actually on these projects, and then like the best testing area is literally the beach, since in the mornings it's quite empty, but pretty a huge pain in the ass to like get your all your stuff dirty with sand. So
And oh yeah,
it's part of the
especially with
game.
magnets, you get sometimes get the like
Oh
ferrous
yeah,
sand in there too.
but it's close to LAX airport, so I could travel quite easily, which is really nice.
So give us some hints of where you're going travel wise, at least. You got anything scheduled?
Yeah, I might be going back to Rome for a pretty incredible project. Yes, can't complain about that, right? Where else? A lot of stuff happens just in a lot or California, so a lot of the time it's short commutes, and I don't know. It usually comes in a couple months in advance, or sometimes even shorter term. So there's always fun stuff happening, and try and start to get some more out on social. But
Nice. Chainsaw FPV is asking Johnny, where do you want to fly that you have not yet? You have any like a bucket list of FPV flight locations?
I think it would be incredible to all the I used to do. I made a pretty cool video in Austria, like a mountain surfing video, long range vibes. I love to do another crazy mountain video with all the proper cinema gear. So Komodo with the nice lenses and everything like that. So that would be super fun, but it's very risky. Obviously, flying that distance, you have shorter flight time, and then if you lose a drone, it's like 10, 12, $13,000 versus $1,000 with the GoPro rig. So high risk, but I love to do. That would be super cool to try and do at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. See, Jeremiah is asking if you're ever going to put out like an old school FPV freestyle video. Like you said, maybe you do a freestyle Komodo. That could be interesting.
Yeah, no, I'd love to do a freestyle video with the Komodo rig, and that would that's honestly what I'm passionate about right now. So, and people would find that quite cool, assuming I could do it well. And if I crashed, people would think that's awesome as well.
Yeah,
So,
win-win.
yeah, no, I'll plan to do that. I got to find a good park in Chicago for sure.
Okay. What's
Or
your
not
on the
maybe
Komodo in
Los Angeles.
LA? Yeah. In with your Komodo, what lens setup do you usually fly with?
My favorite lens is a 14 millimeter. It's a bit tighter than the super wide GoPro stuff, but still wide enough to really do what you need to do and not feel too punched in. But
Okay. Have you flown with other ones as well? I think I've seen some people even go like real wide, like a 7 or an 8 millimeter type ultra wide.
yeah, that's something you want to stay away from. But people are obsessed with it, so it's whatever people want to do. But the wide stuff is not so good, unless it there's situations where you want to use super wide, like if you're in a very tight area, or you yeah, if you're just in a tight area where it helps to have more real estate and really kind of like
Hmm.
understand the location. But
I've seen some people. I think I've seen comment that they use the wide because then they can kind of crop it in post and maybe stabilize to some degree. Is that ever a way to do it too?
yeah, I mean that's always important, but you don't need to go super wide to do that. Going
Hmm.
super wide is, in my opinion, some people just like the look. I think it's terrible, but for some landscape stuff, wide is really nice to really get like the wow factor of a location. But um, yeah, no, you could do the same stuff on tighter lenses as well. So
Nice. So what was it? 15 millimeter? You said 14.
yeah,
That
and then
was your
that's
go-to.
what you go to, and then you could veer off from that as well.
Cool. Have you ever done anything with like a longer throw lens or anything for some kind of different type of shot where they wanted something actually zoomed in a bit?
Yeah, yeah, you just have to do it in the right situation. If you go too tight, it's too crazy, and you can't really. You also lose the sensation of speed when you go too tight.
Yeah.
You just don't see as much land, so wider feels faster. But for sure, for sure.
What what would you give people some advice if they're wanting to get into cinema style drones or flying? Let's assume they have at least some FPV experience already. How do they transition to that? What would you do?
Well, let's see. You got to know the camera, right? You have to understand everything with shutter speed, ISO, how to expose well, the basics. So that's kind of step one. Um,
It's actually something maybe that's not so obvious to people that aren't in photography already. They're like, oh, hey, I'm a really good drone pilot. I can do this. Is knowing that stuff important? Like you have to know the camera stuff, right, to be able to get the good shot, I assume.
yeah, of course. And it just when you go on a project, you need to be fluent in the language of the camera, right? So you got to
Mm-hmm.
communicate everything and know how to customize it to the situation. But so that's step one. Obviously, if you don't have that, you're going to be struggling with the camera side of things. So that once you have that, you can focus on the drone, getting a proper system with the right camera. And there's some cheap options, there's some expensive options. So at the end of the day, everything is better than a GoPro. Although the GoPros now are pretty damn good, so those are always kind of the start point. You gotta get good with the GoPro before you can expect to do something well on a cinema camera. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
And I assume you have to be able to fly with knowledge that you could crash something that is a lot of money. so so maybe be
for
prepared
sure.
for that to some degree.
You have to master the how should I say it, the risk to reward. So obviously, FPV is always great when you get close to stuff or you're going fast and you're doing crazy shots. But when you crash too often, obviously that could be detrimental. So it's a balance for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Looking through the chat, seeing a lot of people still chatting that up. Someone was asking, are you flying analog or digital on your stuff when you're on set usually now, in terms of your FPV feed?
Yeah, all digital. So switched to digital fully back. Want to say early 2020, maybe. So it's been about 2 years, 2.5 years,
Okay. And is that
something like.
important because for you as a pilot, or is it more? Is it also because of the live video out for directors of photography or other people that want to see the feed?
Yeah, well, it's much more pleasant to use. The range is quite good usually. Um, and what else? Yeah, it's just it's better than analog for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you're working on some stuff. You're gonna do a little bit of traveling. You maybe we'll see a freestyle video with a Komodo in the
Oh
near
yeah.
future. That would be cool. That would be cool. Um, what else? Where do you see FPV like in the next 5 years? A bigger picture.
Um, Similar trajectory. So hopefully people continue to find like its unique factor and integrate it into films, commercials. Um, I don't know. People are playing with gimbals on FPV drones now, which is I think it's a little overhyped because most of the time it looks identical to a good Inspire camera operator,
Mm-hmm.
but the drones are smaller, so you could put them in different areas. And but what else? I mean, yeah, people. I just hope editors integrate it well and they use it properly, so it's a plus instead of a something that distracts you from the film or commercial. So I don't know. Can't predict the future.
No, I think that's a good point though. In terms of, I always appreciate the shots where it's not about the tool that got the shot; it's still about the shot. So when you use a drone and it's used well, I think it's not where I'm thinking, "Oh, that was a drone." It's where I'm like, "Wow, that's a really cool shot." And then later, I'm like, "How did they get that?" And then you're like, "Oh, yeah, it was not on a wasn't on a car. It wasn't on a dolly. It must have been a drone." That type of thing. That's where I think those shots are really cool and used in a clever way versus just like saying, "Oh, this is diving down a building and then flies
Yeah,
away," something like that. Yeah, I
totally,
can appreciate that. Very
totally.
cool. Yeah, I hope it continues to evolve and is a useful, more of a permanent tool, kind of in the tool bag for videographers and cinematographers. And I think it should be. Like, I don't feel like it's just a fad within the industry. Do you?
No, it's not. But it takes a pretty high level of operating to do it well enough where it's not a gimmick.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, some projects I've done, it hasn't been used well, and sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's the editor's fault. Sometimes it's just whatever. So it's definitely not a fad. It's not as simple as showing up to any project and flying FPV for the sake of it, right? There's a bit
Right.
of pre-production needed, and it's not good for every shot. So it needs to be used appropriately for sure.
Yeah. Starkey FPV is asking you, have you used Real Steady Go 2 yet?
No, I haven't used Real Steady in few years. I'm not a fan of it to the extent that everyone uses it. So everyone's videos look the same. and it's no longer interesting to me. But I've heard good things about 2. I've heard it's very fast, so that is incredible. If you have like a for one shot stuff, it's quite nice because it really streamlines the visual, kind of
Mhm.
ties it all together. But for like car stuff, real steady is just not good in my opinion. Um,
So
but
with
yeah,
all your footage, is it just raw in terms of stabilization, or what do you do with it usually?
depends on the vibe. So the MotoGP thing, it's all raw. There's no stabilization. On the NFL video, there's a bit of stabilization in After Effects just to iron out some bumps because there's a lot of speed ramping in that. So
Hmm.
you can't really speed ramp something and have it look pleasant if there's any shakiness in there.
Right.
Um, so it's something that should be used appropriately. But
I'm reading some other comments here. When you go to Rome, I think you're already in Rome, unless you're going back.
no,
How
I'm
long?
going
How long were you there for the when you were shooting?
a couple weeks. Couple
Wow.
weeks.
Did they like block down a whole area where you were flying there, or like what? How did that work in terms of rules?
Yeah, no, for a big production, they do everything by the book. So walking down streets, making sure you're not flying over the public. Um, yeah.
In that shot, I think they added a little bit of CGI in a few areas for the vehicles. Was that true? Like when you were flying it raw, what were you seeing in that? I'm talking about the intro shot.
Yeah, so they weren't able to drive cars on that road. So the cars are done in post.
Okay.
And then the intro is there's actually a whole full VFX breakdown on this on I don't know where it is, but there's a the intro they molded 2 of my shots together. So
Mm.
there's one take where there was like a chapel or some sort of very famous European slash Italian architecture, and there's another shot where like just after or near the start there was no chapel, but like the midsection had better buildings, so they like put them together in post because the movement was identical, and they obviously the people working on this stuff are the best in the world, so they do it so you'll never notice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, the ability for those guys to do stuff in post and like paint stuff in and out, you just don't know. I was talking to, I think it was Vanover on one of the movie sets he was on. He was saying, "Yeah, I was right there in that shot. Like I was standing there, and you'd have no idea. Like he was actually in the shot they were using. They just completely painted him out, and it was a building instead, or something like that." I thought that was interesting because I wouldn't have ever guessed that you'd be in your own shot and they still used it, but it wasn't a big deal for them. They're like, "Yeah, we'll just do that in post."
Yeah, no, totally. No. Even I could do some of that. Like I can't do if it's too crazy, but I could remove myself all day as long as I'm not like in the very center or something.
Yeah, that's cool. That's interesting to hear. Guys, ask some questions for Johnny here before we wrap up. I want to let him go because I know he's a busy man, but I also want to get you guys a chance to ask any questions if you got it. Someone was asking you, what's the machine you edit on? And also, can you grow a beard yet?
I have one of the new M1 MacBook Pros, so I think they just came out with like the Ultra chip. I have the one that came out like 4 months ago. They already surpassed it, which is kind of funny. But the Apple stuff works great. And yeah, man, I shave like a few times a week. I gotta stay fresh for the
Oh,
ladies.
Johnny's all grown up now, guys.
Gotta stay fresh for my Tinder dates.
What's the LA life like? You enjoying being out on the West Coast there? Because you grew up in what, Chicago? Is that right, or around Chicago?
Yeah, LA is awesome. I'm very close to the beach, so that's cool. In the winter, it's not that freezing, which is great.
Yep.
So good times.
I remember some of your first videos were flying around in your by your house in Chicago in the backyard, front yard, because you were kind of known for doing all those flips and tricks within inches of your trees somehow and never hitting. Um,
Oh
so
yeah,
yeah, a little bit different maybe out in the West Coast versus flying there, and then sometimes you'd be in Miami too. I think people know you for some of your Miami videos too,
for sure.
which that had the beach vibe. So maybe that's why you're still liking the beaches over there.
Yeah, must be. I don't know.
Johnny, we got to get you to come down here to Sarasota. We got beaches here too. We're on the west coast of Florida. Very beautiful
All right,
beaches. Maybe we can get
little
you out here.
Sarasota trip, maybe.
Yeah, put you in the studio. Let you check it out. We'll put you on video here. Let you host a few live videos. Maybe you'll share your tune to everybody and then make them happy.
Oh, the big bad tune, our overload, the tune
That's
god.
it. That's it. That's what's holding everybody back. If I had Johnny's tune, I'd probably be doing the same thing you
I
are.
haven't changed my tune in like years. I don't even think my drone is tuned.
It just flies.
I don't even know.
Johnny, do you follow any other FPV pilots or anybody that inspires you? Who would you say that you enjoy watching?
Yeah, I mean, I think Finky over in Europe, he does a lot of
Yeah.
unique stuff. So I
Hmm.
always like when people do something a bit fresh, and he does a lot of.
He did that one shot, like what was it? Through a bus in and out or something like that. Do you remember that one? I think it was a TV commercial.
I think I might know what you're talking about, but yeah, I think he comes from a creative background. He used to work
Hmm.
in marketing or an ad agency. So he
Okay.
has the right kind of mindset and direction when it comes to trying to put a twist on things. So that's super important, obviously, with any kind of video. If you just do everything else the same as people out, that other people are doing, you're never gonna like excel or gain any kind of notoriety. So it's super important to do anything you do unique for sure.
Yeah. Hill Scraper FPV is asking you, what do you tell people you do? So, like, if someone says, "Hey, what do you do for work?" How do you explain that?
Hi, I think I'm a filmmaker, but obviously with FPV drones, so it could be drone filmmaker, aerial director of photography. You could title it in 10 different ways, but just filmmaker.
Hmm. Hmm. You don't say I'm like a super amazing drone pilot.
No. Should I start saying that?
Oh, maybe Johnny Schaer, super amazing drone pilot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great.
Z Fromey says, "Come back to Chicago." Apparently, he's from Chi-Town. Maybe he wants you to come back and visit. You have any plans to go back? Does your dad still live back in Chicago, or where is he at these days?
Yeah, my family, my mom and dad are still back in Chicago, so
Okay. Okay. You ever get back there?
not as often as I should probably, but usually once a year.
What was it like for you? I know with this whole world going crazy with pandemic the last few years and COVID, I know that affected the film industry a lot. Did that affect your work as well and kind of what you had scheduled when that all started?
Yeah, I mean every film production was shut down, so thankfully, like a lot of films got up and going within 3 or 4 months, but the entire industry was shut down. Um, which definitely, well, I think everything in the world was shut down. So,
Basically, yeah. Someone's asking, do you still fly futaba? What radio do you fly with these days?
yeah, yeah, the black, the 16 SZ, it's great. I love it.
You've been flying that one for a while, right?
Yeah, since it came out, which was 2018 or 2019, maybe.
Okay. Have you ever
Yeah.
tried another one, or are you just so used to that one that's your go-to one now?
No, no, it's my go-to. I have no interest in trying anything else.
Yeah. Someone was asking, what flight board do you use when flying freestyle? I think you said Betaflight, but I don't know. Is there a specific board or something like that you fly?
No, just a standard. Uh, I think I have multiple. I need to double check.
F7, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, honestly, these days, a lot of them, same thing, just whatever works.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So what's going on the rest of the day for you? I know you were out scouting a shoot today, you said. Like, what's a normal work week for Johnny look like?
Yeah, some of these bigger projects they have scouts. I thought this was kind of funny too when I first got into the film industry, but it's quite normal on bigger projects. So
Oh,
you go to the shoot location and make sure you're aware of the surroundings and the creative. Everyone's there talking like what you're gonna do when you show up on the day of. So I had a scout today for a little shoot. Um, so I mean, normal day is either editing or shooting or um, yeah,
If you had a choice, would you rather spend more time editing or more time flying?
probably flying, but editing. Sometimes I enjoy it, but it's a very tedious process. So sometimes it's a little much. But flying, of course, it's like you can't beat that. So definitely flying.
When you edit, do you sit down and knock it out and like all at once, or do you do a lot of like 3 hours and then you got to take a break and walk away and come back later or something like that?
With editing, I'm a very inefficient editor, so I spend way too much time on the little details.
Hmm.
But I also think it lends to high quality. So it my process is quite slow, but it usually yields a fantastic result, which is
Hmm.
quite important.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's hard to argue with that. You definitely have good results with your videos. Goat is in the house. Thanks, JB. I assume he's talking about me, not you, Johnny. Yeah.
He might be talking about Blue Mountain State. It's a great TV show. Roadhouse.
Maybe. Someone's asking you, what do you think about the DJI FPV drone that was released about a year ago now? I don't know. Did you ever get a chance to fly that or see that?
I did a few flights on it. I think it's a super like just like easy to get up in the air, right? Which
Hmm.
is great for anyone
It's
who's not.
kind of the point of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't want to build a drone and like teach yourself how to solder, it's a great option for sure. But yeah,
Did you ever did you ever fly it with the motion controller? Did you ever try that?
no, that would be fun. I'd
Yeah,
be more
I got to
into
do that when we had a demo event where we had people out flying it, and that was the first time I tried it with the motion controller. It was actually pretty cool because it was very intuitive, and like it wouldn't replace how I fly FPV, but it was a fun way to fly just because it was so different.
yeah. I wish they came out with like a full VR machine, right? So your body could control the movements, and you're like, those
Yeah,
amusement park things where it's like a roller coaster, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that would be cool. Someone's got to do that for sure.
Yeah. I've dreamed of that before, of like FPV, like future motion control, because they have motion control today, but it's a little gimmicky and doesn't work great. But sometimes you can imagine if I could just move my hands or arms the way I'm imagining in my head and the drone just reacts, like that would be
Oh
a
yeah,
cool way to pilot. Yeah. And you're
make
like
it
really
happen.
flying. Oh, yeah, we'll make it happen. Check back next week.
Okay.
We'll need your help with it, Johnny. Have you ever used the Naked Black Magic? Swiss Frames is asking.
No, I kind of get the appeal, but um, I don't think you gain much from saving that little bit of weight. I've never felt limited by like the slightly heavier full on Komodo, for example. So
Hmm.
it's a cool thing, but I don't think it's super game changing in any way.
Yeah, there's certainly people who will like the min max, whatever it is, if it's weight or power or the camera. But yeah, there's a community of people where every gram they're counting, and that's what's really important to them. But yeah, I get it if
Yeah,
that's what you're into, and that makes a difference. More power to you. For me, it makes me scared seeing that camera and all that gear like in a naked format. And I'm like, oh, that thing's gonna be trashed if anything happens to that frame.
yeah,
But I guess that's the trade off. You save some weight for a little less durability. Man, Johnny, it's been really fun getting to talk to you. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight
yeah.
and
Likewise, man.
joining us on the live chat. I had fun going over all your videos and reminiscing a little bit about the past. And I'm excited to see what you got going on in the future. I wish we could talk about everything you have going on because it sounds like there's a lot that's not even public yet. But we'll get there. We'll have to be patient. Congratulations on your Emmy. That's awesome. I think not only for you but for kind of the FPV industry to see that being recognized as a real professional tool and seeing the results that you can get with an FPV aircraft. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that will be the beginning of a lot of, maybe more for yourself and certainly others in the future, to build upon that. I think that's really cool.
for sure.
Well, we'll sign off, guys. Thank you for joining us here on our live episode here, Legends of FPV. Thank you, Johnny, for hanging out with us and making this a fun night. And you guys go check him out. If for some reason you don't know, where's my that way? Go check him out on Instagram. You can follow him on JohnnyFPV and on his channel over on YouTube as well. He's doing some really cool stuff, and I'm sure there's more cool stuff coming out soon that he'll be posting. So stay tuned. You can find us here at GetFPV, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.